Score more with the college-branded Venmo debit card and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash. Got paid back? With the Venmo debit card, you can instantly access your balance and spend on what you want, like game day snacks, gear, tickets, and more. The more you do, the more cash back you can earn. Plus, there's no monthly fee or minimum balance. Sign up now at Venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughn, Capitol Bureau Chief and host of Under the Dome. My guest today is Representative Alan Chesser, a Nash County Republican. Thank you for being here, Representative Chesser.
Thanks for having me.
I should say this is a crossover of people. Both of us have been on PBS State Lines multiple times, but you've never been on Under the Dome. So we'll encompass all of NC poll listener and viewership and readership for this. So Representative Chesser was in the Army National Guard for 6 years. He served in Iraq with a field artillery unit as a gunner, and then in law enforcement as a police officer in Nags Head and in Raleigh.
Yes, ma'am.
And then for the Department of Transportation as an engineering technician. Now he manages an IT department for a healthcare company. And you are in your second term, right?
I am.
I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
So I know people that are familiar with, Nash County or campaign might know this already, but how did you end up in politics and why did you actually want to work here at the General Assembly?
Yeah, so I had zero interest in politics growing up. My family was not political at all. In fact, when I was in the Army, I registered as a Republican simply because I figured the Republicans were more likely to give the Army a pay raise. So that's why I registered as a Republican. And so just growing up, I had no interest in it at all. The change, if you will, happened during COVID. And so I've told this story several times. Tell it one more time. I always struggle because I say my wife and I, but it's not my wife and I. It's just simply my wife was pregnant at the time. And it would have been our sixth child. And unfortunately, circumstances worked out to where that did not come to fruition. Our daughter ended up being stillborn. But during that, because of the lockdown procedures of COVID, my wife had to get that news in a doctor's office by herself. And I had to find out through a text message because I wasn't allowed in the doctor's office. And so it was kind of in that moment that I realized that government doesn't get to strip away humanity. Like government doesn't get to tell me how to be a father or how to be a husband. And so we can never again lose sight of the humanity of the people that are affected by the decisions we make here at the state capitol. And so that was kind of my driving force to get involved at the state level.
Wow. And you all have 5 more children now?
We have 5 biological kids that are still with us. Yeah. And that was the introduction into the whole foster care thing, which I don't know if we're going to get to that later, but I don't want to jump the cart here and your show.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. You're sponsor of this foster care bill that's moved. It seems like it's going to move through and pass both chambers this session.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. We had a unanimous vote through the House for the first time on this particular issue. And so now it's in the Senate and it's moving along. We had a good vote today in Health Committee. And so I'm pretty optimistic. I think it's a well-received reform that everyone's kind of acknowledged needs to happen and the time is right.
You and Vernetta Alston are co-sponsors, right? So I don't know how often that's happened as far as across the aisle. So tell me how that came about.
So the relationship with me and Vernetta goes all the way back to actually my gun bill that I ran as a freshman, the pistol permit repeal bill. She had a concern with it. And so I sat down with her and discussed the concern and we worked together on that. And it just built a level of mutual respect. I think Vernetta's brilliant. And so I knew this was going to be a heavy carry and something that was case law intensive and legally intensive. And I'm not an attorney. So I wanted a smart, brilliant attorney at the table with me. And so I just recruited Vernetta onto the bill.
Okay. So where do things stand exactly? I feel like it went through Senate committees this past week.
So it went through Health Committee in the Senate, and we still have to go through a Judicial Committee, a J Committee, because they've PCS'd it. They've added a couple other bills, and one of them modifies some criminal charges. And so now it's got to go through a J Committee as well.
So PCS is proposed committee substitute for listeners who maybe aren't completely in the weeds on this kind of legislation. We're recording this in your office in the Legislative Office Building, and you've got the signs about Fostering Care Act and NC. Is this kind of what you hope will be your kind of signature piece of legislation this session? Do lawmakers start session with? I know everybody starts session with like, here's what I want to do, and then the reality of what works out. But it seems like this is going to be, a pretty big deal.
Yeah, this was my legislative priority for the biennium. For the long session. I hope it doesn't carry over into the short session and I have to start all over. But this was my legislative priority for the long session, is to go ahead and get this reform done.
You talked about this being something that started because of interest in your personal life and everything else, and running for office. We talked about you being in the military and then a police officer. So I know you've done this some with campaigning. It was September 11th is what drove you to join the military? Or?
Yes. So I was in my shop class, had a shop teacher that was very patriotic, former military himself, I believe Navy, if I remember correct. And we walked in one day. He was normally, pretty jovial, made a lot of jokes, somebody that young kids could look up to and respect. But he was in no mood to play games on September 11th. And we walked in and he said, "Sit down, shut up." And I remember looking up at the TV and him saying, there was a TV up in the corner near the roof in the classroom. And he pointed at it and said, "This is going to change your life." And I still remember it to this day. It was grainy and there was a old clothes hanger sticking out of the bottom of the TV. So some of your younger listeners are not going to understand what we're talking about at all. But he had angled it to where he had somewhat of a signal. And we watched as the second plane hit the second tower in real time. And it was kind of in that moment that we all realized that our lives would never be the same. And he was right. And out of the people in that classroom, 6 of them went on to join the military.
I think everybody, like, I guess of a certain age, because when there are people that were, maybe little kids or some are that already adults and weren't born yet then. I was in my first newspaper job, and I remember I was supposed to cover a United Way event that day and was like getting ready to go to that assignment. And then it was I was living in Virginia and my dad worked for the federal government at the time, and a lot of panic of like, for me, it was like, where's my dad, and wanting to know that and then just, yeah, it's really just one of those things that was changed so many people's lives and really put you on a different trajectory in your life as a result. So why was your time in Iraq, did you want to go into local law enforcement? Had you thought about that before if you hadn't served in the Army?
No, just when I got back, I realized I needed a job. And so looking at the skill set that the military gave me, it was either getting to computers or law enforcement. The skill set went either way. And so I did not really enjoy being in a cubicle in the IT world. And so I pursued law enforcement. It's the same skill set, same disciplinary structure, rank structure. So it's just a logical transition.
What was it like working? How long did you work for the town of Nags Head?
Just over a year, right at a year. That was just me and my wife when there were a couple promises I made to myself when I was in Iraq. One was I would buy a suit. I never owned a suit up to that point, which I did, which is a whole other story.
You're wearing a suit right now as we record this.
Yeah, but the suit that I bought, I still have. My wife will not let me wear it. It's pretty gaudy. It's I did not know what I was doing, and the old man at the suit store knew what he had in front of him, which was a fool that would write a big check for what he didn't realize what he was buying. And so I've got a big, beautiful, gray, double-breasted pinstripe suit at the house that I am never allowed to wear. But I've kept that suit just because it's a memento of keeping a promise to myself that I made when I got back. The other was I was going to move to the beach. I had been in Iraq in the desert for so long. I wanted to live near water for at least a little while. So we did. We moved down there and I became a police officer in Nags Head. And funnily enough, my wife became a newspaper reporter at the Outer Banks Sentinel.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And so
shout out to the Outer Banks Sentinel.
Yeah. So we had dirt on everybody.
I go to Nags Head every summer. So So what do people not know about, because of vacationing at Nags Head, there's a lot of difference. What should people know about the Nags Head residents that are there all the time, not the ones that come from Raleigh or from northern states and vacation? What's actual real Nags Head like?
So actual real Nags Head, there's varying degrees. So you either have the older retired generation that wants to just go out there and be quiet, or you have the younger, what I'll call the fishing community, that they go out, they work hard, but they party hard too. And so it's two varying degrees of locals that you kind of interact with. And so, and then outside of that, you just have normal 9-to-5ers that are trying to raise a family and get their kids through school.
What's your favorite place in Nags Head?
Daryl's. If we're talking about food, when you say favorite, my brain goes to food. There's a fat kid hidden in here, whether you can see him or not, but he struggles to get out from time to time. And so Daryl's is my favorite restaurant in Nags Head. Well, it's actually in Manio.
Yeah, okay. I mean, like, isn't that over?
It's not technically in Nags Head, it's in Manio, but
you pass it on the way to the aquarium or the airport out there. Yeah. So mine would have been, it was closed, but I want to say it was called Big Al's maybe. It was sort of like an old diner on that way, but it closed and now it became like a pet boarding place or something, because I went one summer and it wasn't.
If you ever find yourself down on Beach Road, there's a little place called Snowbirds, which is my wife's favorite. And you can get a half pound or a pound of shrimp. It is phenomenal. So
I'm sure we'll hear from our Outer Banks listeners, whether they're pro or con, or what we should have mentioned that we didn't. How did you meet your wife?
In high school, actually. So we met sophomore year of high school. She was in my English class, or I was in her English class, however you want to view it. But we met in high school and just kind of hit it off, I guess. I was much more interested in her than she was in me at the time, but that's kind of how it goes in high school.
So how long have y'all been married now?
Oh, should have known you were going to ask that question. 15 years.
Yeah. I have, it's funny people make that joke about it, but when people ask me how long, I have to think about the year that I got married and then add from there. Yeah. So I got married in 2004. So I'm like, okay, so we're at 21 this year, I think.
I think December will make 16 years, if I'm not wrong. And if I am, she'll let me know when she listens to the podcast.
So how did you end up becoming a City of Raleigh police officer?
When we decided we were moving back to Franklin County, I just started looking at who was hiring, and Raleigh has a lateral academy, so I didn't have to go back to a basic academy, which is phenomenal. And they constantly have hiring cycles, so it was easy to get in and become part of the process and just transition from one department to the next.
Do you pay attention now to people who aren't, not in the Triangle area? When they say Raleigh politics, they're probably thinking the legislature, but do you actually pay attention to the city of Raleigh politics and what goes on with the police department and raises? You talked about the raise in the Army. That's something that comes up every year in local budgets.
Not so much city of Raleigh politics anymore. Like I said, I stopped really following that when it stopped affecting, my bottom line personally. But I still have some friends that are in the department that come up and make me aware of some issues. So.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the legislature and our picks for headliners of the week. We'll be right back.
So good, so good, so good.
New spring arrivals are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Get ready to save big with up to 60% off Rag & Bone, Marc Jacobs, Free People, and more.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Because there's always something new.
Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
It's crunch time at work, and you need to bring wings to your workday. Visit redbull.com/gettingitdone and answer a couple questions about your work style to get a Spotify customized playlist tuned to your productivity. Plus, score a can of Red Bull on us while you go from to-do to done. And remember, Red Bull gives you wings. Supplies are limited. Terms apply. Visit the website for more information.
You're listening to Under the Dome. I'm Capitol Bureau Chief Dawn Vaughn, here with Nash County Republican Representative Alan Chester. We talked about Nags Head and Raleigh, the city, and of course Raleigh here at the General Assembly before the break. We'll talk a little bit more about legislation. I want to start talking about the the budget and how, I know this is your second term, but I think we were all pretty surprised that a majority of Democrats voted for the House budget. Now, in the Senate, a couple Democrats did, and they usually do. But for how things ended up happening in the House was pretty surprising, I think. I don't know if it was for the Republican side of the aisle. Like, were you surprised about Democrat? It sort of seemed like, as House Democratic Leader Reeves, he talked to some reporters before the final round of debate, and we thought, are they actually going to vote for this? And of course, Governor Stein had been in the building that day. So what was it like from the majority, the one vote short of a supermajority in the House, and then to find out the minority party, a lot of them actually supported the bill?
Yeah, I think this cycle was a bit different than we've seen in the past, where we had a lot of open meetings about it, and we had a lot of very open, transparent discussions about the House budget. And I think, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. You saw the Democrats come out and sign on to it because, good policy doesn't belong to either side. And so I think we put out a budget that people can stand beside on either side of the aisle. People see the good that we're trying to accomplish for the state. And so we knew some Democrats were going to vote for it. I didn't realize how many were going to vote for it, but I'm always happy when we find some middle ground there where we can get a consensus and move forward.
Are there things in the budget that, I know, transportation, your own committee work, but were there things that were important to you that the House budget, that you hope will be in the final budget too? Yeah,
I think there are some, not giving away bargaining chips right now on your podcast in any way.
Well, you can.
Yeah. But there's definitely some things that I think I'm so hopeful we'll negotiate for, some different funding options for different organizations, I'll say. But I think there's opportunity there, and I think we're in a good spot to start negotiations with the Senate, and I'm optimistic to see where we get by the end of the summer.
Do you think that that taxes are really the biggest thing? I mean, I know there's the Children's Hospital is like a big thing with different priorities, and maybe some of the job cuts, but taxes seem to be like the widest gap between the House and Senate right now.
Yeah, I think there are definitely reasons to have sticker shock, if you will, but I think, like I said, I think we're in a really good spot to start negotiations and end up in a really positive place for the state moving forward.
You said end of summer, so is that your estimate for when?
Oh no!
I know it's every year. Everybody talks about, will it be the end of June? If people don't know this or are listening, the North Carolina doesn't shut down like the federal government. There's a continuing resolution. So if you don't pass the budget by the start of the fiscal year, the spending levels just remain what they already are. So it's not a big chaotic, you can't go anywhere the way that, that what happens in D.C. But
yeah, I'll leave the negotiating of the timeline up to the corner offices. That's a bit above my pay grade.
Okay. So. But we do. I mean, the rest of June, we're recording this in your office on Thursday, June 5th. We have a couple of weeks that'll be the flurry of bills. And then, maybe by the end of the month or by early July, if the budget's not negotiated, that'll probably be the last thing to happen, I guess, right? Yeah,
we've got quite a few bills moving. Just doing some good faith measures between the House and the Senate, making sure that everybody understands we're working together here to get something accomplished. And I think that's going to pay dividends moving forward. And we're going to build that trust and be able to hopefully get something done.
Let me ask you, I know you didn't serve under Speaker Moore for a really long time, but just kind of like how things are different in the House with Speaker Hall. Is it that much different, just seeing over your couple terms as far as their style or how things are? Or and I guess there are a lot of freshmen, too, in the whole House this session as far as how that changes the dynamics.
No, I don't know. Like I said, I was only here for one session under Tim and now under Destin. They have different leadership styles, but again, I think it'd be unfair for me to go from a freshman under one to, a chairman of a committee under the other. I can just say that, Destin has entrusted me to do quite a bit and provided the freedom for me to do it. And so I'm appreciative of that. I think a big difference that everybody talks about is the schedule. So far, we've kept to the schedule. We've honored the schedule. There have been no surprise sessions or votes. And so I think even the Republicans and Democrats appreciate that as well.
I usually ask freshman lawmakers this, what they think it's going to be like here, and then once they're actually here, and the difference. So now that in your second term too, what's changed with how you thought things would work, and then the reality of it?
Yeah, so I told everybody last year, I still tell everybody this now. There's a very military style comparison I make, and it's when I joined the military, it didn't take me long, 6 to 8 months to realize that my recruiter lied to me. Right. And so I feel that same way here with this. It's not a bad way. There's nothing else I'd rather be doing. I thoroughly enjoy what I'm doing, but it was not what it was billed to be. And so in this building, it's interesting. Good policy, bad policy. It all comes down to relationships. You got to have the relationship with people to help support them with the good policy that you find. And then you got to have relationships with the other members so that if a piece of bad policy does come across, you've got that respect factor where you can sit down and have the conversation with them, and they're actually willing to listen to you, and listen to your explanation of why you don't support a bill or why it might be bad. And then on the other side, you've got to humble yourself enough to be willing to hear other people's opinions about what you've written in your legislation. And I think those are the big pieces. Is everybody thinks that we're special in some way because we won an election. I did not get inherently smarter because I won an election or become, an overnight law professor. I'm still the same guy that just ran for public office. And so we're not as special as some of us think we are, or people outside of this building think we are.
All right. Well, one thing that has always been on a schedule is the cafeteria in the legislative building and the snack bar, both in the building and then the legislative office building snack bar. There's 3 different places you can eat here. The food is similar. Mm-hmm. So what's your go-to menu item?
So my go-to menu item is not on the menu. And so some of the staff might get mad if I disclose it, but I've got a secret menu item here. I'll go ahead and throw it out. So I get the chicken Philly, cheesesteak over fries. So no bun.
Oh.
It's phenomenal.
That actually that's in the LOB snack bar or the...
Yep,
okay.
LOB. I go downstairs and get a chicken Philly with no bun, but have him serve it on the fries.
I do feel like the chicken Philly is the unsung, hero menu item of the Neil Inman, who's the chief of staff for Speaker Hall and was for Speaker Moore too, recommended that I get that in the snack bar once, and it's pretty good. But I haven't had it over fries, so. Yeah. All right. Well, any of our listeners who work in the legislative food service will hear about them. All right. Well, let's move on to our picks for headliner of the week. What is your headliner of the week?
So I guess my headliner is a little bit past about a week ago, but if you provide some leniency, I think it was May 30th was the final leg of the law enforcement torch run for the Special Olympics here in North Carolina. We've got a huge delegation that participates in that out of Nash County. And it's something that they take great pride in. And so I was happy to see them get to participate again this year and encourage everybody to participate with the Special Olympics in any way they can.
All right. Mine is going to be D-Day, which is June 6, 1944, commemorates the Allied invasion of Normandy during World War II. And we owe a debt of gratitude to everybody that was part of it. So I know that you all listening to this on beginning of the next week, but D-Day, of course, is something that think about every year, all the time in June. So, all right, we are out of time already. Thank you, Representative Chester, for being on for the News and Observer. I'm Dawn Vaughn. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
For more from our politics team, subscribe to the News and Observer at newsobserver.com/subscribe. Sign up for our political newsletter, also called Under the Dome, at newsobserver.com/newsletters. Thanks for listening.